Hey, it's Ruby. It is the beginning of a new month, so today we're going to be going through my February wrap up, all the books that I read in February. I feel like February didn't go by as fast as it usually does for me. It didn't feel too crazy fast, so that's kind of good. And I did read a good amount of books. So before we get into it, I thought we'd throw in some stats because if you did not catch it, I'll go ahead and link it up here. But I now have a reading journal, which has been a total game changer. I'm able to write down my thoughts. I'm able to go back at the end of the month and see what I thought about these books because my little peanut brain forgets everything. So this has been really cool. And one of the spreads that I made was a stats page. So I figured, why not throw up the stats and see how I did this month? I read 11 books in February, although I feel like it's really more like 10 and a half, but you'll see what I mean. However, 11, which was 4,459 pages read, which honestly, I don't really care about that, but I had the space, so I added it. I had an average star rating of about 3.59, which is not the best reading month, 3.5, but it wasn't too bad. It just wasn't like I didn't have any 5-star reads, which was unfortunate, but I still had a couple of really good books. They just weren't quite there, They weren't 5 stars. I had my first DNF of the year, which was a surprise to me. I did not think I was going to DNF this book because everybody's been loving it, but I did. I just wasn't really vibing with it. It was okay. As you can see, it's Butcher and Blackbird, but I didn't really feel connected to the characters. The romance wasn't really hitting for me. It was kind of insta-lovey also, for sure, instant attraction, but I felt like they were really into each other immediately. And there was just a bunch of little things that ultimately led to me DNFing in. And this year I told myself, if I start reading a book and I do not enjoy it, I'm DNFing. Because there's just too many books to read. I cannot just spend time on something that I'm not really loving. And I was 37% in to that book when I decided to DNF. But it's okay because I just borrowed it from Libby. So I just returned it and it's like it never happened. And then for my physical ebook and audiobook breakdown, I did not read any physical books, although I do have some. But I've said it before that if I can get the ebook or the audiobook, I'm going to read it that way because I don't like to read my physical books. It's kind of I do, but I don't. I don't want to damage the book, which is ridiculous. But sometimes I do switch with 3 of them. I did actually switch from audio or ebook to physical for a couple chapters and then go back and forth. But mainly 0 physical books, 4 ebooks, and 7 audiobooks, which audiobooks should always be the most because as soon as I finish an audiobook, I pull up another one. That's why having a TBR is not really accurate for me since I end up reading a bunch of other random books as well. But we'll see if we do a TBR this month. I'm not sure. We'll see. But without further ado, let's get into the reads. So the first book that we have on the list is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I felt like I started this at the end of January and I didn't finish it till the end of February. I'm doing a reading vlog on finishing duology, so I'm not going to talk too much about this, but this is book 2 in the Nightborn duet, which is one of 3 duologies in the Crowns of Nyaxia world. I know that was a lot, but Carissa Broadbent has announced that there's going to be 3 duologies in this universe, and this is the first one. So we have book 1, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Then we have a little novella in between these 2, which is called 6 Scorched Roses, and then we have this one, the conclusion, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I didn't end up loving this. I feel like I definitely like the other 2 books in this duology more. This was just okay. Like I said, you'll have more of my thoughts in that vlog, but yeah, I am excited to move forward because I think that the second duet has the potential to be really good because the Shadowborn vampires in this universe are very much mysterious right now. We don't really know a lot about them, so I think that's going to be interesting. But this one was just underwhelming. It was just okay, very mid to me. So I rated it 3.5 stars. I still recommend it, like the duology, including the little novella, but wasn't the best ending. It was just like, okay. You know, it wasn't like, oh my God, that was so good. No, it was just okay. And then I finished my reread of the ACOTAR series. I have been listening to the graphic audio of these books, which if you don't know what that means, it just literally means there's a full cast of characters, there's sound effects, there's music. It's really cool, actually. In the beginning, I thought it was cringy and it was taking me a minute to get used to it, but I got used to it pretty fast and I thought it was really cool. So I don't regret that, but yeah, you can get them, like all the graphic audio books, free on Hoopla. So you just need a library card and then you can listen to them for free. But yeah, the first book, A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is like the Christmas special. Everybody says it and it's very much true. However, I did like it. I've always liked it. But I feel like my favorite part of this book was anytime Azrael was on the page. So when he interacted with Elaine, even though I don't love Elaine, I'm not an Elaine hater, but I just feel like she's just there. You know what I mean? Like we have Feyre, we have Nesta, and then we have Elaine. That's the vibe she's giving. Probably because she doesn't have her own book yet, but that's just what she's giving right now. However, Azrael is my favorite of the Bat Boys. Reese is a very close second, but Azrael is my favorite and I cannot wait to read more about him. Like, he better end up with someone. I don't know about Elaine, but someone, because I love him. So anytime that he pops up, I'm like super into the story. And as you probably know if you've read them, he doesn't come out too much. Like, he's not the center of attention too much because he doesn't like it. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was okay, but it's just a little novella. So yeah, 3 stars I thought was okay. Then we have A Court of Silver Flames, and I was very much interested to reread this one and see if I liked it as much as I did the first time. And the answer is no. I did like it. Like, I do think it's a good book, but I definitely did not like it as much as I did the first time that I read it. Nesta is just not for me. I don't hate her. Like, I know there's a lot of people that either hate Nesta or they love her, stan her. I'm in between. I'm in the middle. Like, she's just such a bitch for most of her life, even in this book, like for most of the book, that I just can't be like, oh, you know, Team Nesta all the way. Like, I just can't. Especially like what she did to Feyre. Like, she's just awful. But I felt like her friendship with Emery and Gwyn is what made me come around, what made me like her. Not her romance with Cassian, no. Her friendship with these girls or women is what really just brought me to the Nesta side. And I think she's really cool. She's really powerful. She's really talented. She can dance amazingly. She's beautiful. But I feel like that was what did it for me. And surprisingly, my favorite character in this book was Gwyn. If you're like, who? It's because she's a minor character. She's one of Nesta's friends, but I just really respected her. I felt like she's not only beautiful, but she's very interesting. She was like the de facto leader of the little Valkyrie unit that they made. And again, her interactions with Azrael, anytime Azrael's there, he's gonna bump up the character for me. So I ended up giving this, what did I give it? 4.25 stars. Definitely one of my favorites in the whole series, but not my favorite. A Court of Wings and Ruin is still my favorite, which I know is an unpopular opinion, but that one's my favorite. The war, the politics, the other courts, I love that one. But yeah, finally done with this one. And then I also continued on with the Maple Hills world. This is Wildfire, which is book 2 in the Maple Hills novels. Book 1 is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. And I really liked Icebreaker. I gave it 4 stars. I know a lot of people hate that book, but I didn't. I really fell in love with the hockey team, with the friendship, with the like found family that they created. It was just really cute. And I really liked the hockey team guys. In these books, we follow along the hockey team. So each book, we're going to follow a different player. I was a little confused when I realized that this was about Russ after reading Icebreaker and realizing who's who. Russ is like the newest guy to the friend group within the hockey team. like he just moved in with them at the end of Icebreaker. But I am confused why we went on to Russ. However, he's a good guy. Like, he's like a golden retriever of a guy, but he's going through so much emotional stuff. He's got so much going on, some past trauma that he's still dealing with. And the same can be said about Aurora, or Rory, our main female character. She's just going through it. They both have such extreme daddy issues. And I couldn't relate, for starters, but I feel like because of the issues that they have with their fathers, they kind of just trauma bonded, and their relationship was built on that trauma. So I didn't love that. I did like the summer camp aspect. I thought it was fun to be at a new location, but I was missing the university setting, like the school setting. But yeah, I just feel like I didn't end up loving this because I felt like the relationship was, one, pretty quick, pretty fast moving, pretty instant, like the attraction, even though they were like hesitating because they had to stay professional, it still felt like insta-lovey, even though it kind of wasn't. But yeah, I just wasn't really in love with this couple or these characters. But I will continue reading these books because the next one is based on Henry, and he's just so interesting to me. I mean, one thing about Henry is he's super sweet. He is really loyal to his friends, but he's also super blunt, says like whatever is on his head, he's just gonna say it. I felt like it was gonna be natural to go on to Henry's story and not Russ's, but I read it. I ended up rating this 3 stars. Again, it was just an okay read to me, but I'm making my way over to Henry's book, which is going to be releasing later this year. So definitely recommend this world. I loved Icebreaker, and I can't wait for Henry's book. And then the last book that I have physically to share with you is one that snuck up at the very end. I literally picked this up like with a couple days left in the month, and it was in my unhaul shelf. If you haven't watched that video, I'll go ahead and link it, but I added different books and stuff, but this was one that was on there. And I was like, I've got to read at least something from this shelf because that was the whole point of making it. So I picked this up, All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is a duology, so you're going to see it, well, not this one, but you're going to see me finish this duology in that reading vlog I'm talking about. But I picked it up and I really ended up liking it, which I didn't think that I would because this is YA fantasy. And you know, with YA, it's always hit or miss for me, so I was just like, or whatever, I'll give it a try. This is really interesting. It is told through 4 POVs, so if you don't like to have a ton of POVs, this might not be for you. You do have to pay attention to who's who in the beginning, because I was listening to the audiobook first, and I always kind of half listen to my audiobooks, but I had to like re-listen to the chapters and be like, okay, you need to pay attention for this one, because I was like losing track on who was who until I actively started paying attention. And then I actually got super into this book that I ended up picking up the physical book and like reading a couple chapters and then switching back and forth from the audio. But I really liked this. I thought it was really fun. Was it the best book ever? No, but it was really fun. So in this we have 7 prominent families, and these 7 families are the ones that are in charge of this like tournament that happens every 20 years, and they raise their children to be champions, to be potentially champions and be entered into this tournament. They get to choose one family member every 20 years to enter this championship tournament, and the prize is control of all the high magic in the world. Now, they're the only ones that know that this is even happening. There's like this red moon that comes about every 20 years, and it's indicative of the beginning of the tournament. But the rest of the world just thinks that it's like a really cool nature thing that's happening every 20 years. They don't know that this is the reason. Until this year, someone, we don't know who, although everybody's speculating it's one of the families that they think like very poorly of, that published a tell-all book. So The whole tea was spilled. Everybody knows everything about these families, about the tournament, about the magic, about everything that's been going on all of a sudden. And so these families are thrust into the spotlight, much to their dismay, because it kind of is dangerous to them. So, yeah, the government is not happy to hear this, but they decide to let them keep going with their little tournament, because if one of these families does not get control of the high magic, then it's just going to be out there for anybody to try and get a hold of. So they're like, let's interfere. So they want to control it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I ended up really liking this. It definitely does have that Hunger Games vibe where it's these children fighting to the death, and the last one standing is the one that's going to win the high magic for his family or her family. Yeah, so the way that this ends, we actually haven't even finished the tournament, so we're gonna go into the next book and hopefully have resolution. I'm thinking we will, but it was really good. From the four main characters, my favorite was Alistair and my second favorite was Gavin. So if you've read this, let me know who your favorite ended up being, and don't spoil the second book for me because I am totally gonna read it. And of course, this book has now made it off of my unhaul shelf back into my regular shelves because I'm not gonna get rid of it. I really, really like this, and I ended up giving it 4 stars, which is pretty high. I did not think I was gonna like it that much. I definitely recommend it. So those were all the books that I actually own physically. The rest I don't own physically. I read them either through Libby or Hoopla on ebook or audiobook. So the first one was The Bodyguard by Catherine Zenner, and I had put this on hold because I had heard good things about it. I wanted like a cute little fun romance as a palate cleanser book, and it came up off hold, so I had the ebook and then I got the audiobook from Hoopla, so I was kind of, doing both. And I really like this. I felt like I was very much surprised that I liked it that much because the premise did sound unique, but not too unique. Like, it's been done, but I still liked it. So in this one, we follow our 2 main characters. I don't remember their names. I told myself that I need to start writing the main characters' names in my reading journal so that I can tell you what they're called, what their names are. But I know the guy's name's Jack because I wrote his name, but I don't remember the girl. So we have the girl. She is a bodyguard for this private company, right? And she's really good at what she does. She's been training for a really long time. She even was gonna get recruited by the CIA at one point, but then she turned it down because this private company was gonna pay her way more. So she was like, I'll do that. So needless to say, she's really good at what she does. And then we have Jack, the male main character, who is an actor. And think about the most famous, successful white actor you can think of, and that's him. He's I don't know. He's like a Brad Pitt type, or I don't know. I don't know who's in right now. I don't know. But he's that. He's really famous. He's done these really big, successful blockbuster films. But he's taking some time away from Hollywood right now to deal with some family stuff. And because of that, he needs a bodyguard since he's going to be just out in the real world with real normal people, and he gets recognized and stuff like that. So he hires this agency and they assign her to be his bodyguard. The catch is, though, she needs to pretend to be his girlfriend because of reasons, and she's very apprehensive. She does not want to do that. She's like, that is so unprofessional. That's not what I trained for. I trained to be a bodyguard, not a girlfriend. And she ends up doing it because her boss is like, you're doing it. And she's like, dang it. So yeah, our story takes off from there. We have a little conflict. It is very predictable. And at the end, I was like, really? I feel like I rated this a little too high, but I'm going to stick with it because I had a really fun time while I was listening and reading it. So I'm sticking with my rating of 4 stars, even though I think that's a little high. I think it might be 3.75. But because of this book, I picked up her newest release, which is called Hello Stranger. And this one I liked even more. I rated even higher. This one I did think was really unique. I have never actually read a book like this or heard of a book like this. Maybe there is one out there, but I personally had not heard of one. So in this one, we follow our two main characters. We have the female main character who is an artist. She's a portrait artist, and she supports herself selling portraits on Etsy. So she takes commissions, paints them through like photograph, and then ships it off. And she's like barely making ends meet. She's really struggling, but she has issues with her dad also. She doesn't want him to know that she's struggling. She doesn't want him to be like, I told you so, or you need my help, because, you know, it's just like, I guess like a pride thing. And she doesn't like her stepmom either. So she just doesn't want them to know that she's struggling, but she really is. And at the beginning of this book, at the beginning, something happens that really just like, it just ruins her life essentially. Her livelihood is not attainable anymore. And so she's going through this medical stuff, and she's just like, I mean, she's just dealing with so much. Plus her little dog who she loves, this is what she considers like her one family member that she's had since she was a little kid. Her mom gave her this dog, so he means the world to her, gets sick. And it's just like, she's going through it. She ends up meeting this guy, and I'm not going to talk much about the guy because I feel like you should just read the book. But the guy is just a really good guy. And yeah, romance. It's just so good. Like the twist at the end, you can see it coming. Like once you read at least half-ish of the book, you can see it coming if you paid attention. But it was just so good. I really, really like this. And I never read author's notes, and I don't know why I read this one. And just her talking about the research that she did for this book, I just thought was super interesting. So I really, really liked it. I definitely recommend it. And I'm definitely going to purchase it from my shelves because I think that is one that I will want to reread over and over again. But I'm waiting because right now they only have the hardcover, which Book Outlet's having a sale. I don't know if by the time you watch this it'll still be going on because it's been going on for a while, but they have the hardcover for $5.99. But I'm waiting because I like my romances to be in paperback. So definitely recommend it. I gave it 4.25 stars. Really, really good. And then I read a couple of really fast reads. One was a manga and one was a graphic novel. So the manga was volume 1 of One Piece, which if you don't know what One Piece is, girl, I cannot explain the whole thing to you because it's a lot. There's like over 1,000 anime episodes. There's so many volumes. There's a live action on Netflix. I recommend everything. But I saw on the B they had volume 1, so I was like, let me read it. And the bad thing is that they only have volume 1. They don't have any other volumes, so I can't continue. But I was like, what the heck? Let me just read volume 1. And I ended up really liking it. I mean, it's just the intro volume, so nothing really happened. We just got to meet Luffy and Kobe and Zoro, and we're gonna meet Nami, so his crew. But essentially, we follow this kid, this young guy named Luffy. He already grew up. He's like a young adult named Luffy, and he dreams of becoming the Pirate King. And in order to do that, he wants to find the One Piece, which is this treasure that is like very like mystical, and like everybody's like, you're gonna die looking for the One Piece, you're never gonna find it. But he's just the epitome of optimism. Like if optimism was a person, it would be Luffy. And so he sets about, and he's trying to get a crew, trying to get a ship so that he can set off and find the One Piece and hopefully become the Pirate King. So that's exactly what he does. And I mean, it's really sweet. It's really goofy. It's just really fun. So definitely recommend, like I said, the entire One Piece world. But once you start and if you get immersed, it's going to take up a lot of your time. So keep that in mind. Then my Hold On Heartstopper Volume 5 finally came through, and as you may or may not know, it is the newest release in the Heartstopper universe. I think it released early February, maybe. It's pretty new. So I've read all the other ones, and of course I was going to read this one. And if there is one word to describe Heartstopper as a whole, it is sweet. It's just so sweet. Every single volume is just the sweetest thing you're ever gonna read. Like, these characters are so endearing, they're so good. I just love them all. Like, the things that they go through are pretty heavy. Like, we still have uh, eating disorders, we still have mental health stuff going on, just growing up and moving on from like teenager to adulthood, although these are all still teenagers. So yeah, it's just really sweet. And this one, we focus more on Nick and Charlie's physical intimacy and taking the next step, and also accepting that Nick is gonna graduate from high school and go to college, and they're not going to be able to see each other every day like they're used to. But it's very sweet. I definitely recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like I'll always give them 4 stars. I don't think there's like a 5-star in there for me because it is a graphic novel, but I really like the artwork also. I think it's really sweet, so I recommend it. Especially if you read the other ones, this one is just as good, just as sweet. Not my favorite, but still a really good time. Down to the final 2. The next one that I listened to was The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. And this is kind of giving me Butcher and Blackbird vibes in the sense that it's a romance, but it's unconventional. So with Butcher and Blackbird, they're 2 serial killers that are literally actively killing people whilst falling in love. And in this one, it's an undertaker and a marshal, which he essentially kills these like zombie-like corpses and delivers them to the undertakers so that they can properly dispose of the bodies so that they don't like reanimate and continue to kill people. So that's how our main characters, Hart and Mercy, meet. Mercy is the undertaker and Hart is the marshal. And these two from the get-go hate each other. They cannot stand each other, and it's literally because of miscommunication that they dislike each other, but they do, and they stick with it. They really dislike each other for a long time. In this book, we have the letter writing element. So if you are a fan of that, kind of like Divine Rivals, where they write each other letters, then you'll like this aspect of the book. But we also have the element, the fantasy element of these zombie-like creatures and then gods and stuff like that. But this kind of fell flat for me. I didn't really love the characters. I didn't connect with them. I wasn't really vibing with the romance. Like, it had its moments. It had some cute moments, but it wasn't anything that I loved, unfortunately. Actually, I think that I love a secondary couple more than the primary couple. Mercy's brother, Zeddy, and Hart's protege, can't remember his name, Penn, I think it's Penn. They enter a relationship and they're super cute, so I think they're my favorite. But yeah, I guess this was just very average, very mid to me, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. If you're like chilling, have nothing to do, and you see the audiobook on Hoopla, listen to it, but it's not gonna be like the best thing ever, in my opinion. And then the very last book to talk about today is the worst one that I read in the month, so I left it for the end. It is The Teacher by Frida McFadden, which is her newest release. And Frida books are pretty mid to me. Like, they're nothing that I'm gonna rate 5 stars, but I'm not gonna hate them either. They're just like, you know, a fun, easy time. They're thrillers that are not too serious. Like, sometimes they're kind of silly. The thrilling aspect of it is there. They are pretty predictable, but this one was just like on another level of predictable. Like, as soon as you meet your main characters, you kind of know what's gonna happen. So let me just say this, because this is a thriller and I can't tell you too much because it'll ruin the thriller. So we have a male teacher and a female teacher, and they're married. And then we have a female student. She's like 16. And she's going through it. At the beginning of the book, she is getting bullied severely because of something that happened. And you find this out like chapter 1. You find out everything chapter 1, but I'll still leave some things out so you can just find out on your own. if you do read this, which I only recommend if you really love Frida McFadden or you just want to be like a mindless little zombie for a bit. Go for it, because that was me. But yeah, so we have those three characters, we have those three POVs, and in this book we start off literally chapter 1, page 1 with a bang. A dead body's being buried, which is very Frida McFadden, very on brand for her. So we get this and then we go back to the beginning and lead up to this event. How did this happen? Why did this happen? Like, who did it? Like, you know? So I was really pumped at the beginning. I was like, they're already burying a body. What happened? Intrigued. But dang, I just didn't love it. I just felt like it was so damn predictable. Too predictable. Like, Frida sometimes tricks me. Usually she can trick me, right? But in this one, there was just no trickery to be had. It was just predictable. But I still had fun for like the first half of the book. The last half of the book started getting ridiculous and low-key unrealistic. I was just like, there's no way. Like, come on, Frida. Like, you cannot get me, girl. That could not happen. But it did in this book. And I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. Like I said, if you just want to be like zero thoughts, just like brain fry, listen to it. But I wouldn't go into it expecting to get a 5-star read out of it, if you know what I mean. But I feel like that's how I go into all my Frida books. It's like, let me see, what do you have today, girl? And sometimes it hits, like with the inmate, and sometimes it doesn't, like with this one. So yeah, that is it. Those are the 11 books that I read in the month of February. I think I had a pretty good reading month in terms of the amount of books that I read, considering I've been watching Netflix and Disney Plus now that I have all these subscriptions again, and going out and shopping and doing just different things with my husband. I still managed to read a good amount, so that was cool. But 3.59, a mid-month. Let's hope that March is better. I do have some reads that I'm super excited about, but we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna try and be filming more reading vlogs, because why not? Like, if I'm reading all these books, why not film it? We'll see how that goes. In the future, you can expect an unhaul video and a haul video. Listen, it happened. And yeah, some more reading vlogs. So thanks so much for spending time with me. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you very soon with another one. Bye.